Hello everyone, my name is Avalon and it is now the morning in Kakariko Village. I stood outside for a while and waited doing nothing, just to get it into the right time zone for us because we wanted to go into the shops. Now, this guy sold a bottle which I don't need anymore. The other guy sold a huge rupee which I do want, which is handy. So last time I told you I'd talk about dungeons and I didn't. I had a little conversation about theming of dungeons, I guess, but it wasn't a particularly well done conversation, shall we say. I ended up getting a little bit too focused on the randomizer. I don't know if too focused is the right way to describe it, because, you know, it is important. I mean, you know, the footage is the randomizer, so it makes sense that I would talk about the randomizer, I guess. But I still haven't got my hookshot, which is a real big problem. I still haven't got the Song of Time, so we'll just go through what we have got at the moment. We've got the Serenade of Water and the Requiem of Spirit for teleportation songs. And we've also got the Zelda's Lullaby and Saria's Song, which will be handy, because we're going to go and do Zora's Domain this episode. Items-wise, we're kind of like there. It's not brilliant, it's not poor, it's just there. So yeah, we're going to head over to Zora's Domain, and whilst I walk there, this time I'm actually going to talk about dungeons. So we'll start like I intended to start last episode, was talking about the dungeons in this game. And you know, the kiddie dungeons are great. They give you a good sort of starting point into the game, and I've just realised I was also going to do some stuff up in Goron City as well, but we'll do it later, it's fine. We've already left, who cares? Yeah, so you start with the Great Deku Tree, and bearing in mind this, when it first came out, was of course the first 3D Zelda game, first 3D Metroidvania, first 3D lots of things really, and it was definitely a very ambitious project. So to have the first dungeon in that sense, I thought was really interesting. It had a lot of verticality to it. So from a development and a design point of view, I would have expected to have a more horizontal dungeon as the first one, so you could just get used to like moving around in the third dimension, and actually understand what the the third dimension movement was like. But Nintendo decided to go full out. They were like, right, you're in 3D now, so you're gonna have to learn to cope with 3 dimensions. So they give you this dungeon with this huge verticality and the central puzzle being based around this big old drop, and I like it. Go on. I think it's clever. How you have to work out, obviously, that you have to use the weight of Link to drop down and stuff, and appreciate in a randomizer it's very different because you can technically use a bunch of different methods to burn that web in the middle of the tree, and when I eventually find the Deku Tree I'll probably use one of those methods, especially if I'm adult Link at the time. But you know, back then it was really cool to have to think in that way. And then you come across the Dongo's Cavern, which reintroduces the bombs, which are obviously a core Zelda item. And had you not have got them early, I think people would have been questioning where they were. And I think that's part of the reason the slingshot's so brilliant as well with its placement, because again, bow and arrow is like core Zelda stuff really. And without it, people would almost definitely question, where is it, why have I not got it? So to give it to them in that sense early, and then add in the boomerang and completely recontextualize it into a 3D sort of situation, as they did, it was just clever and it was unique. And those child dungeons were really good. You had to think about the layout of them and stuff, and because there wasn't keys, things that stopped you were that pure Metroidvania, I've got a new ability, I've worked out a puzzle, therefore I can progress, instead of the key-based stuff that comes along a bit later on, which, if I'm honest, I'm not particularly fond of, but we'll discuss that shortly. So you go into Dongo's Cavern, it has this weird puzzle which I don't think gets enough criticism, if I'm honest, you know, like, like I said, it's cool now, apparently, to hate on Ocarina of Time. A lot of people seem to go for that. I don't know why. I still think it's for its time period, one of the greatest games ever developed, created, designed, etc. But one thing that doesn't get enough negative criticism is the puzzle in Dodongo's Cavern. You know, you go into this big hub room and you link back over it loads of times. It's really clever and complex and makes it feel like a big dungeon. And, you know, there's this big skull of, at the time, an unknown entity. I mean, you can assume it's the Dodongo, just because it's called Dodongo's Cavern. I hate smashing pots as that. So yeah, you can make your assumptions about it, but you don't know anything. And then you come around and you do lots of things, you get the bombs, blah blah blah, and then you come back into this main room, and it's cool that you come all the way back round, and once you do successfully manage to make it all the way back around, you find yourself being literally told on a sign to bomb the eyes to glow them red, or however it words the clue, but it very directly tells you what you need to do and how you need to do it. I just don't understand how that doesn't get more criticism. You know, there's so much good about the game that people criticise for no good reason, but then that one thing that people could quite fairly criticise, you know, this insanity of a puzzle, and they just kind of let it be. I don't get it. But yeah, no, the Dodongo Cavern, and it has quite a cool, epic boss, and it is a Dodongo, so it fits the theme, just like Goma fits the theme of a tree, because you know there are spiders in trees. You know, there's some fun ecology for you. And yeah, I don't know. I really liked the Dodongo's Cavern overall, except for that puzzle that I mentioned there. What is in Ice Cavern? Oh, Ice Cavern is Ice Cavern. Oh, interesting. I've got bottles on enough. Yeah, I've got bottles. Cool. I haven't got the hook shot, so I don't know how far into this I can get. I've got fire arrows, so that matters. Ah, it's too slow. There we go. Cool. Mission success. Yeah, so I've got the ice arrows, the fire arrows, sorry. But I just don't know how much I can actually get done in here. Why can I not? Oh, that was weird. Okay. But then you get onto King Jabby Jabby's belly, and, you know, if I'm wrong about this, I'm excited to be wrong about this, but I've never seen a dungeon quite like that. You know, firstly, it's a water dungeon with an electric theme, which is cool. You know, it's so regular to see, you know, water dungeons with fire theme. Water dungeons with ice themes or water themes, but I don't think I've ever seen one with an electric theme before, so I'm kind of happy with that. Oh, I can't get that skull. That's sad. But yeah, and so you go through this themed dungeon, all about being, you know, inside Great Jabby Jabby. Now, my issue with it is, though, that it's nothing unique for the game. Like, it's the second local big deity person that you've had to go in who's been cursed by the big bad, and you know, you just have to go through, and it's kind of, I don't know, I guess disappointing is the word I'm looking for. You kind of hope for a better story to be told than what is, but you know, like a minor thing. And you go through, you get this unique concept of carrying Ruto around. I know a lot of people don't like that, and again, now that it's cool to think that stupid keys. But yeah, again, now it's cool to think that Ocarina of Time is a bad game. You know, that's a common thing people like to hate on. I strongly disagree with them. I've made that clear before, but no, I think the Princess Ruto stuff is just quite clever, unique. Yeah, it just brings a completely unique twist to the dungeons. And then you kind of get into the adult dungeons, and that's where, in this game especially, I've become a little bit more disappointed in them. It's going to be a nightmare having to pause and switch bottles around and stuff. I only got one bottle though, so... Back to the shop. But yeah, they're all three very unique sort of things. Like the Deku Tree, very vertical. The Zongo's Cavern's very... it feels very non-linear. I appreciate it is very linear, but it feels very non-linear. Just kill this stupid bat. Why would you... I mean, I will get them. I will not get the pot apparently, but I wanted to. I hate Ice Cavern so much. Oh, come on. And then it's faded away as well. Okay. It's just... Stop messing around. Play it seriously. Come on. But yeah, then you become an adult and you go to the Forest Temple, and obviously, well, we know the order of the game. Let's not pretend that we don't. But it has some very big differences to the child dungeons. Firstly, it introduces keys, which I will accept that maybe keys don't impact linearity as much as I think they do. But it makes it feel a lot more linear, you know? It doesn't feel like you're exploring as much, especially when one of the keys in the Forest Temple is absolutely ridiculous from both a game level design point of view and an actual playing point of view. It's just stupid when you come into the Forest Temple and the two Wolfos attack you and there's a door in front of you and just so much going on, especially if you consider that's only your 4th dungeon in the game. So it's kind of nuts that they then put some vines hidden to the side there. And a lot of people who, when they first play the game, probably won't find that until they, like, go get the compass, and then they're like, where's this chest in there? And they go and have a proper look and stuff. Or if they're looking for golden Skulltulas or similar. Which, to be honest, the rewards for the golden Skulltulas in this game, in the base game, are wallet, and then piece of heart, and the super secret rumble pack. But outside of that, I don't even care. Now I know one of these has more blue fire behind it, so I can't remember which one it is. We'll open this one first. And yeah, then you go to the Fire Temple, and it's the same as the Forest Temple, except it's hot. You know, I find it really difficult to talk about true differences between the two. And I don't feel like I'm wrong in feeling that way. You know, apart from the fact that obviously the Fire Temple you start with the bow, which is handy. But both of them are key-based exploration with gates that require keys to progress and that sort of stuff. It's nothing particularly unique to them. Or at least I don't feel so anyway. I mean, from a story point of view, yes. You know, you're in the Fire Temple, you're rescuing Gorons or whatever, and I'm trying to get that little sweet spot there. Really. yeah, so you've got the storyline differences, and again, the Poe sisters are quite cool, but they're just enemies. You know, you can't say that they change the theme of a dungeon or the feel of a dungeon. I can't get that Skulltula. I'm gonna have to go back and backtrack so much for these Skulltulas. Oh, that's gonna be lame. So yeah, the Fire Temple, Forest Temple, far too similar. And I would go as far to putting the Shadow Temple into that same category. A lot of people separate the Shadow Temple as being like different to the others because it's so linear, when in actuality the difference isn't the linearity, so to speak. It's more the reason it feels different is more due to the story progression to it, and the lack of a central hub room like the other ones have. You know, I appreciate there are like little shortcuts that you can find in the Shadow Temple to make that traversal a little bit easier and a little bit quicker next time you come round, but there's nothing particularly, there's no like central hub room, whereas both the Fire Temple and the Forest Temple have these rooms that you'll come back to multiple times throughout a visit of the temple. So, you know, those three, they're all basically the same thing. You get keys to open new sections, you go to the new sections, it's very exciting, and then that's that. Whereas the Water Temple does bring in a new mechanic in the sense of the water level, which I would say is unique. I would say no other temple does anything similar to that. And I think you'd be hard pressed to disagree with me on that. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, the keys they just restrict so much of the freedom that it felt like there was in the child dungeons to truly go and explore what was happening in the world and, you know, what was going on around you and stuff like that. But yeah, so the Water Temple very unique, and the Spirit Temple is also pretty clever, in the sense that obviously you have to go and visit it as both child and adult, so it recontextualizes rooms you've been into, which I think is a really cool concept. And I think that it could have definitely been explored more in a game based around children and adult. And like, if you include Beneath the World in with the Shadow Temple, then you can kind of gain an appreciation for the Shadow Temple for that. But the Spirit Temple does it significantly better by recontextualizing rooms. There's rooms that you visit both as a child and an adult, and they're completely different, obviously, depending on which age state you're in. Just because, obviously, like, randomizers really show you this, but the ledges you can grab as an adult are way more than those that you can grab as a child. If you ever watch anyone playing one of these going through Dodongo's Cavern as an adult, it's significantly easier than what it is as a child, just because of all the ledges you can grab and some of the stuff you can just avoid. Why can I not grab this ledge? Give me the ledge. And that time it wasn't lined up, that's fine. I'll go over that one, the previous one. So yeah, and I think a lot of dungeons actually really suffer from adding keys into them. I think that there's so many games that could just, you know, make a more creative way of doing things. Like, in essence, the Poe sisters of the Forest Temple are just one big key. You know, you have to beat them to unlock the elevator, and without that you can't progress, and that's, you know, it's fine. But it doesn't feel like you're finding a key and then going to have to unlock a door. You know, and if Meg wasn't where she was, you'd see that come back up in the hub room, and you'd be like, oh, that's really cool, I can go back there now and go and explore the awesome hub room that I've just unlocked, which is special. And that's why, again, the Spirit Temple does so well in that, because you come back as an adult and you're like, oh, I know this room, I know there's this part that I can and can't do, because I was a child before, and now I'm not. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like the Spirit Temple's often overlooked for its brilliance in that sense. Too many people say the Forest Temple's their favourite, and I think that once you get in the Forest Temple, that's a deserved title. But like I said before, I don't think the build-up, the theming on route to the temple is particularly good. And I certainly don't think that it's anything special in terms of story or linearity. I do like the Poe sisters, I must admit. Disappointing that two of them are the same, but you know. But you look at Darksiders, for example. Again, it's got key gated progression, and you can really feel it. It really drags the pace to a halt, especially when the keys you find are literally used almost immediately. You know, you find a key, and then you immediately go around the corner and stab an eye. There's no sort of like build up, or you never sort of sit there going, oh, I wonder where the next key I'm going to get is going to unlock or anything. It's like, it's there, it's in front of you every time. I'm going to actually go back and get some more blue fire super quick. Oh gosh, it reset the room. There we go, cool. Yeah, and I don't know, they could have done that differently. Like, there's a part in Darksiders which I think is really cool. It's in the first dungeon, I guess you could call it, where you have to like drop a statue. You have to get your way up to a balcony and drop a statue through the floor, and it's clear from the moment you walk in that floor can be broken by something, and the question is what. And in that dungeon you actually unlock the ability to well, I don't know if you unlock the ability, but you gain access to bomb flowers, or their version of bomb flowers at least. So you think maybe you could bomb it, but no, it all comes down to this this statue that you drop through the floor. And, you know, they could have done that by just putting a key somewhere, and it would have been, you know, it would have been adequate. I'm not going to say it wouldn't have done the job, but I don't know, the statue feels like you've kind of got that big, aha, now I see how everything fits together. Whereas you don't really get that. That was nice and easy. And again, like this, the Ice Cavern having a Wolfos at the end, it makes no sense. Why did you not have like a boss? Ooh, that's actually quite handy. And then Sheikah's song was Decanuts. Cool. But yeah, why would you not have a boss based around the freezy things that you have? Oh, is that a shut door? Oh. That's annoying. So, what should I do next? I'm going to go back to Kakariko. Like these things are cool. They're a unique enemy to the area, they make sense with the dungeon, so, you know, why not have something like that as the final boss? I don't know. Oh, come on, guys. Super. That's not bad enough. I'm gonna head to Zora's Domain. And then the Water Temple. Now, the Water Temple gets a lot of hate for it, and then it also gets a lot of love for it as well, because, as with all things, there are two sides. There is the one set of people that think it's one of the best bits of dungeon design in all of history, and then there's the other side that think it is the most ridiculous and despicable bit of dungeon design in all history. I don't think either side's right or wrong, to be honest. I think that it is, you know, back in the good old days, even the dungeon designer at the time has apologised on record for having the whole iron boots on-off situation that there was. And I don't think he was wrong to apologise, but it definitely was a unique dungeon, and I can guarantee to you that there's nothing else in this game that is similar to that. So, I personally thought it was fine. You know, I'm not gonna try and say otherwise, you know, but I can never do this, but there is somewhere around here the entrance zone to Lord Jabu Jabu. I can never do it. Oh, and you have to swing all the way back around. How frustrating. Well, maybe not all the way back around then, I guess. So yeah, you know, like, don't get me wrong, the forest and fire temples feel very non-linear. The fire temple takes keys as its theme because there's just so many keys, and the keys are linked directly to obviously the releasing of the Goron, so that works pretty well, I think. But the other end of it with the... I wonder if I can get... the forest temple with the keys, it makes no sense. I don't, like, you could have had more pose. Yeah, you could have had more pose that, you know, then you could have made the dungeon a little bit more understandable and easy to progress through, for one, because you could have avoided having that stupid hidden key. And yeah, people would have complained that it was, you know, it felt linear because Poe opened door, blah blah blah, but then you could have maybe reduced the number of locked doors and had it more of a feel of exploration. And I think Twilight Princess does a really good thing actually with regards to that, where... Oh, handy, nice. Yeah, Twilight Princess does a good thing with that, with its mansion-styled place, because, you know, the Forest Temple is kind of like a mansion. But, it, you know, it has an owner that unlocks doors for you and stuff, so it's, you know, it does it slightly differently. But yeah, so that's kind of what I think about the various dungeons in this game. I think that, without a shadow of a doubt, the best one is probably actually the Great Deku Tree, just because of its ability to teach you how to play the game and stuff. I know I complained about the weird puzzle in the Dodongo's Cavern, but I haven't even mentioned the weird puzzle in the Great Deku Tree, and part of that, if I'm honest, is down to the fact that it makes sense, really. Like, it makes sense that there'd be a big boss and she'd have minions below her, and some of the minions would know the secret code, and some of the minions would be tasked with charging her, protecting her and stuff, so it never really fazed me that much, I guess. Whereas the blowing the eyes up, it makes sense from a storyline point of view, but having the answer to the puzzle doesn't make any sense at all. Because, like, why on earth would that be a thing, you know? I don't understand why anyone would ever think that would be a thing. And why would someone else who'd been there before not have already opened it? You know, because once you open that, it's open for good. There's no, like, oh, it's open for now, and then it'll close when you're an adult, you have to reopen it again, or anything like that. It's just, you open it, and it stays open. So if the solution to the puzzle's right there, how did Ganondorf not find the Goron Rupee? Or at least, I appreciate that, you know, there's actually King Dodongo who's there, but King Dodongo is enraged by Ganondorf, so he found that, but... Oh my god, I'm so bad, I'm so bad, I'm so bad. I will kill one of these silly big poles. So yeah, so, you know, how did Ganondorf not... I mean, Ganondorf must have some sort of explosive power, surely. I mean, it's illogical to think that he doesn't. So how would he not have lit up the Dodongo's eyes, even if he, you know, he went and had a look around the dungeon. It just doesn't work for me. Like, at least with Gomer it makes sense because he has put Gomer in charge of the area, and in doing so she has enlisted the local shrubs as her guards, and in so has given them a code, so it kind of makes sense to me. Whereas, yeah, the Dodongo's Cavern one, it's just illogical for so many reasons. The worst dungeon I personally would say is probably the Fire Temple. It's probably because I just don't like it. I don't like all of the keys and stuff. I think from a story point of view it's quite on point, you know, it is very heroic to go and rescue all of the locked away Gorons, and there's Mini You, or Mini Avalon in this series because, you know, that's the name. So it's kind of cool that you are helping that family again. It's just, I don't like having to go and find keys and continuously finding locked doors and having to go and find which Goron you haven't rescued and stuff. It's not quite as abhorrent as the key that the Wolfos guard in the Forest Temple, that's for sure, but it's definitely not something to celebrate either, because again there is that first room key. The only difference is there's more reason to go back through that first room in the Fire Temple, because the two hub rooms are kind of either side of that first room. So it, you know, it's not perfect, but it's definitely not quite as abhorrent from that particular point of view, but overall definitely worse. I think, yeah, from a theme point of view, the Forest Temple is really, really strong. But, you know, it's also worth considering how they tie into the storyline as well. But I'll probably talk a bit more about theming and dungeon storylines next time, once I eventually get this Poe, and we'll go and sell it to the guy. So cool. I'll catch you all next time. We'll talk a bit about theming and Ocarina dungeons, and we'll go from there.